I'm David, I'm head of operations here in Biofix. I'm an economist and I have a master's in energy and sustainability, and I have been working in Biofix like for a year and a half or so. And yeah, I'm quite happy with working here, and not only because it's a nice place to work at, but also because you work with alongside the communities, and that's something like that's the dream for an environmentalist.
And I am Andrea. I am operations officer here at Biofix. I've been working in the carbon markets just for a year here at Biofix, and I have an undergrad in environmental management and a master's in climate change and environmental policy.
So yeah, we're a project developer. Our focus is natural-based solutions, especially Red Plus project alongside and with the communities, ethnical differentiated communities. So Afro people in the Pacific coast of here in Colombia, and indigenous people in Amazonias close by, and in Brazil. So that's what we do. We made this really big conservation and reforestation project because they are Red Plus, but when you're talking to people that are not in the sector, they will say like, what's Red Plus? So yeah, conservation and reforestation, like really big. And that's what we do. We work with the communities. We issue carbon credits and we sell them to like companies that want to compensate their carbon footprint. Yeah, and also for companies that have to comply on that on the Colombian market. And yeah, so we like to see ourselves as a link, such a link in between climate finance and conservation, because we are not the ones in the forest. The indigenous people that are our partners are the ones in the forest. So what we want to see ourselves like as the link, like the money goes to them directly. And that's what we do.
So it's like you're facilitating this kind of transfer of wealth from those that are looking to offset, whether it's on a compliance basis in Colombia or overseas, that money you're helping direct to these indigenous populations.
Yeah, and not only giving them money, it's like also working with them, because when you are receiving that amount of money, because it's huge money, you have to understand that it's not the same as we as people in the city that have some education or some like degree of financial education. When you go there, you also have to work with them in order to them to start implementing projects.
Yep.
Like they decide what to do with the money, but in the first couple of years with the community, you have to also be aware and be teaching and learning from them in order to understand their needs and understand how they want to develop or transform all that money in develop for the community, because their definition for development is not the same as ours. So we want to respect that and respect their independency and governance, because they are different. The land is their land. We are not the owners of the land, so we have to understand that they are the bosses there. Yeah. So we only we are there to help, but we are not there to say you have to do this. So in order to do that, we have to start building this relation, but also building this knowledge about, okay, how do I establish a project? How do I make a sustainable crop? How do I facilitate energy or healthcare in my community? That's one of the easiest. Well, not easiest is that actually one of the hardest steps, but are the ones that we do first. And that's why we want to establish these projects not only about conservation and trees, sorry about that, all the environmentalists or ecologists. It's because we are talking about people that have really different needs than ours. So it's easy for us to say, hey, oh no, I'm sick, I'm going to the hospital. They don't have that opportunity. So the first step for us is down to the community, okay, what do you need? And after we issue that, okay, let's start talking about conversation. In Delfines, the one that started all this partnership. Yeah. So Delfines, we started with them, actually our second project. Part of Delfines is Delfines Pica Red Plus project. The part of Pica, that is a community council, they have like a school, a little school and a nursery. And the school and the nursery were not suitable for being a school or being a nursery.
Yeah.
So one of the first project they established, like, hey, we wanna fix that. So we told them, okay, yeah, that's the money, that's for it. And they built the building established the high school and it's really nice actually. I would like to show you a picture.
Yeah, please.
It's really nice. And then they started the nursery and it's really nice. And now you go like, there's another example in Cupica. Like Cupica is almost 2 hours on a boat over the sea from one of the closest main cities that is Biasman. In Biasman you have lights, but you don't have energy 24/7 because there are cuts in there, well, a lot of different situations. But in Cupica, that is 2 hours on a boat in the open sea. You go there and you have energy 24/7, and that's because of the resources and the finance they come from the project. So yeah, that's something that you really see and you say, hey, this is really nice. Of course, we have to be completely honest. And you say, okay, how do you generate how do you power generate? And we say, okay, we have this generation. So you're telling me, how do you understand that it's going to be sustainable? And it's easy for you to say because you live in the city and you have hydropower almost in 70% of Colombia. But if you're over there, you have nothing. So like this is like the first step. We have like been talking with the community leader, Europe. And we want to establish like a very big program about biofuels, like with biomass. So that's something we like to work on, but that requires investment. But that's something that I know community wanted because they have told us like we want to do this. But they also understand that are long-term projects about it. So it's something that we've learned. Like we have to understand and put ourselves in the situation that we are not in the city and they have really limited opportunities in a lot of stuff. So most of the projects are focused on that. So yeah, we're talking about nurseries, we're talking about education, we're talking about energy, we're talking about also the infrastructure in Cupica is being held because of these resources. They have like how do you say this? Well, you have like this caterpillar machinery for building the roads, and you have the truck to get out all the garbage and they have all that.
Wow.
So they are also establishing a project about when they are managing their waste. So we are talking about waste management, energy, education, healthcare. And that's something that we're saying, like, okay, this is huge. Like, it may be small scale, but this is huge for the community. We're talking about families that are benefited because of that. And then, like the last time I was going to Cupica, there was a vanilla crop. And it's kind of funny because the vanilla crop actually was like, okay, that's vanilla, but we don't take advantage of that because we don't need it in our food. Like, traditionally, we don't do this, we don't do that. So the vanilla was kind of a maleza. Okay, like, well, that was not good for the crops, so good, for them. And after we talked to them and said, oh yeah, the vanilla crops, don't that just only grows, but we don't take advantage of that. And we told them like, hey, that's international market, right? Like you have organic vanilla, and you can sell them. And they were like, really? And we said like, yeah, you can sell it, like really. And they started cropping vanilla around the trees. So it's something like they don't have to like cut all the trees to grow vanilla. No, the vanilla grows around the trees. So they started doing these crops in order to get the structure around the trees to crop vanilla. So we have energy, infrastructure, we have public health, we have education, and also we have green businesses.
Yeah.
So that's something we're looking for and we're working at. So it's really nice.
One important thing is that these communities, they've been doing the work for a lot of years. They have been planting the trees, they have been trying to do the conservation side of it, and they haven't been fully rewarded for what they've been doing. So I think that now with this type of projects, that's the way to really reward them for what they've been doing in the past and for what they're doing now, and try to also help them to make it a bit more organized and sort of really help them for their own development. They're not doing us a favor. We are paying them because they own it. They own the land, they own these type of projects. So we really have to reward them. It's really not even just giving them the money. It's rewarding them for what they've been doing and what they're doing right now and what they're gonna do in the future. They're gonna keep doing it.
Okay, I'm gonna start from the beginning of Biofix, just to give you a
That'd be
quick
great.
context about it. So we started in 2018 with Tangara. That's a private project, and that's the first project we have, and that project that's with private land. Yeah, that is in Buenaventura, in the Pacific coast of Colombia. We started with them working like, okay, let's see how it makes. They actually our Tangara project is the smallest one we have, like 15,000 hectares, something like that. It's really small. But it has like all this mangrove. Yeah, we started working on this project, and after that, community saw that, and the community said, hey, what are you doing there? Yeah, exactly, what are you doing there? And we tell them like, hey, this is a conservation project, this is a Red Plus project, that's how it works. And okay, Delfines actually was the one that, in that time was Delfines, Pica, and another community council that I cannot tell the name right now because they have another project going on with USAID, so it's really nice. The other community also get advantage of that, so that's good to go for the market and for this kind of project. So we talked to Delfines, and Delfines saw the project and said like, hey, we like this, we want to do this. And we say, okay, let's do it, let's see how it goes. And we started working with Delfines. Yeah, it was a really big project. The community trust us, like for building this kind of project, you have to have trust in the community. If the community doesn't trust you, you are not going to be able to do it. And also, we started doing the things like right, because you see all these carbon cowboys and all these companies say, hey, I give you money and you just give me this land and that's it. No, we started working like, hey, what do you need?
Yeah.
What it needs, how do you want to work? Okay, we want to work like this, and we say okay, and we started doing that, and we started building a relationship with them. And it's not like, okay, I met you today and tomorrow we sign. No, it's a really long process. Some projects take over a year of relationship, of engagement and of trusting in order to establish a project. So yeah, we talked to Delfines, and Delfines people will say, okay, we're good to go. We make the evaluation process, we make the audit verification, and we issue the grades. And it was a really win for us. Like it was something else, because yeah, we have the private project that is Tangara, and it was the first one is something that started all this company. But after we had those things, communities around Colombia, they say, oh, they have something, we want something, and community just started looking for us.
Yeah.
It's quite funny and quite sad at the same time, because we started with just one community that trusts us, and now we have every month or now and then, communities approaching to us and say, hey, I have land, I want to do a project with you guys. And we have to say that we are not able to do a project right now with you, because we have another more on the way, and as a company you have to understand that yeah, it's nice to grow and it's nice to expand, but also you have to be aware of what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people. You're dealing with people now. So if you screw it up, you're messing around with people. So it's not that way. So we started like a company strategy. Was okay. We received all these projects, and we have already 10 projects, 2 more on the way, 2 more in Brazil. But we say, okay, we're good right now. So right now, yeah, we have the opportunity, the sad opportunity to say the no to the communities, but also before we say no, we want to analyze what they have. Mm-hmm. Because there have been so many situations, well, I don't know if I just say it. I do the little. It's because so many times.
If you want something not taken,
this is okay.
Just say off the record and no.
This is okay. Like I mean, it's good for the carbon makers and to the buyers to know that. It's because a lot of people come to us and say, hey, I have this relationship with this community and I have this land, and we say, okay, that's really nice, but who are you? No, I'm the one who knows them. And they were like, we don't like intermediaries.
Yeah.
Because they are always taking advantage of the community. Well, not all of them, by the way, but that's something we don't like. So community approaches, we search the land, like, okay, what are the scriptures of the land? What is the public, like the public title, the public right of the land? How many people live in there? We saw the forest, we saw like what they did in the past, what they're doing now, and after that we established, okay, this is a good project, we are good to go. But it's a long process. It's not that easy as, oh, there is forest in there. No, you have to be like aware of where is the community, where the engagement and the relationship around the other communities, around the people around. So it's something quite difficult, but we have that on a process right now. We have a checklist in every single project and in every single land they send us. So yeah, that's something like that.
So it sounds like things are very community-led, even from the very beginning. It's people reaching out to you and saying, look, I've seen the great work that you've done over here, can you do the same for us? And that's huge, but there's also the great environmental impacts that are benefited from this kind of operation. Could you go into some of the details there? Like what environmental impacts you...
That's something that we usually don't talk that much about in the carbon markets, because it's sad because we only focus on carbon. Yeah, but you're focused on carbon, you focus on deforestation or reforestation, the thing you're doing. But it's a lot of stuff going around degradation that is really harsh on the environment. So at the end of the day, you're talking, okay, we are going to conserve this area, we're going to make a reforestation in this area, but we are also helping like other communities that work alongside them leave their activities that are making or causing degradation in the land they're on, in their ecosystem. So, for example, also in Philippines and in Naya project, another one we have, there's a lot of like illegal mining in there, gold mining, and that's something like they just put mercury in order to sorry about that, mercury on the water to extract gold, and that's something that really degrades the rivers, and not also the rivers, but all the things that are impacted about the rivers, so everything, almost everything. So they started working with them and say, okay, we have an opportunity here. So if you take care of this land and you stop doing what you're doing, we have the chance of getting the money just to plant trees. Yeah, that sounds kind of simple, but when you're in a community and you're in the middle of the jungle, and you know there is gold in there, and it's also dangerous because, well, there are a lot of illegal things going around, and that's also dangerous for you. You say, okay, I have the opportunity to make money and to survive and to have my family going and have healthcare and all that kinds of things, just by planting trees and taking care of the forest. I'm good to go. That's the deal. Yeah. Because in their minds, conservation comes with their cultural heritage, and that's something we much of the time don't understand.
That's really interesting. So they're the kind of unheard stories. Like, it's not just about planting and protecting trees, it's actually dissuading people from mining and illegal mining and using mercury in natural environments that have huge impacts on nature and the surrounding areas. But you wouldn't think of naturally when you're talking about Red Plus projects, for example. It's just another incentive. These Red Plus projects and Delfines and all the others are an incentive not to do that. Because you're supporting them financially in other ways. That's really,
it's
really
the same case for livestock as well.
Normally
what you hear is that Red Plus projects are not very compatible with livestock, with cattle, with you having cows there. And sometimes we had communities where we're starting the project and they do have the cattle, but of course it's not the best conditions in terms of the environment. So what we tell them is, yes, you can keep going with the cattle, but you have to do it either with agroforestry or silvopastoral systems. And that's where we also get there, because then we do the workshops for them also being convinced that they can do both. They can keep protecting the forest and they can keep having the cattle. So it's not that they're not compatible, I think that it's just the way that they do it. And they can also get the business side of it while still getting the environmental side of it.
And that's the difference between conservation and preservation. Preservation is like leave it alone. Conservation is about taking advantage of it, but in a good way.
And a very more community focused way. Super interesting. And on a bit of a more macro level, how important is this economy, this industry for Colombia? Is it a growing industry? How many other organisations are here? Like, is it an important aspect of the economy, of the tax aspect of it as well? Is huge. I think.
The industry is growing quite fast. It's not as important as I want to be completely honest. If you see at the GDP data, Red Plus projects are not even in the in the equation. So but it's really important, and we have to understand like I love Colombia, but we're a third world country. I used to work in the government a couple of years ago, and when you establish like like a development plan for the government, it takes decades in order to get to the community. So I've been like a little bit of an economist here, talking just about numbers, but just to give you an example, there was a time when the Phoenix Cupica project was getting more money because of the carbon credit than the municipality of the city of Valladolid, that is one of the main cities in Chocó.
Wow.
So, and it was quite funny, and it was quite tricky for the community, because the government say like the mayor of Valladolid was like, what are you guys doing? Why are you getting more money than me? So that's something that they are starting working on.
It would seem that it's obvious that because Colombia is so biodiverse, we have about 80 different types of ecosystems, you would think that we put the environment first, but I think that it hasn't been the case because of the entire economy and worldwide economy. The environment is not the first thing that would give money, and so we have been putting oil, gas, and all of the fossil fuels forward. But I think that now the conversation is changing towards, okay, because we are biodiverse, we need to put that forward. So I think that's where Red Plus projects, carbon markets are getting there. We are one of the few countries in Latin America who have the carbon tax.
Working carbon tax.
A trading emission system that it's also on the way to get there. So the topics of the environment are now being put forward by the government, by the private sector, and I think that particularly the private sector, even us as Biofix, that we're also private, we're getting there, and we're really trying to bring forward these type of projects that are really represent an opportunity to, instead of doing fossil fuels, let's do the environment, and let's get money from being a biodiverse country. So I think that it's definitely extremely important for the country to really start implementing those type of projects, because that's where our money should be instead of fossil fuels.
It's interesting that you talk about how these government initiatives are quite slow, cumbersome, there's a lot of bureaucracy to get things over the line, but really pulling it into the private sector a little bit means that you can have big impact fast, and you can start supporting the communities like in a 2-year time period rather than perhaps a 10-year time period, and scale it and grow it, and I think it's fantastic.
But it's also quite different, the approach, because I mean the CDM mechanism was a long time ago, and there were CDM projects here in Colombia, but they were dying projects. As soon as they get the carbon tax and the I don't know how to say that.
The fact that they're compensated, instead of paying for the carbon tax, they get the carbon tax.
That's the no-composition. They do that, and they really push these projects to go. Before that, you will see like CDM projects and very few of them. After that, you will see like a growing industry. So that's something that's really a breakpoint for us. Like a structural change for us. After that, the project developers have been growing, the projects have been growing also, and the communities are getting better. And that's something that we understand, like these Red Plus projects are from 30 years, we are there with the community. Our main goal as Biofix, as developers, is okay, we last 30 years in there, but after that, we know the community is going to be able to exist in a good way, to have developed in a good way, and in an environmental good way. I mean, like cropping vanilla, selling achote, cacao, and all that kind of crops and all that kind of opportunities they have, tourism. So it's something that we are building on that, and you see like, okay, that's a small part of our Red Plus, right? But after we left, and when the community is already going on with that, you know, that's good for the economy. Like, because when you see the GDP, especially here in Colombia, you will see like it comes most from fossil fuels and industry, and also the service sector and consumer. But it's also around like Bogota, Medellin, Cali, Barranquilla, the main cities. But these Red Plus projects are really far away from main cities. So we're talking about not only conservation, but we're talking about development in those communities that if it wasn't from the Red Plus projects and the money they get, they wouldn't been able to make that transition to have independent like economic independence from the government. So yeah, that's something that we're really proud of. It's quite sure you care, and we care that you care. So if you care, we're good to go.
I think that one of the things that we really liked about Thallo is that you're really trying to see the carbon market from our perspective as project developers. I'm not saying that we're the most important part of the carbon market. It's definitely just a chain of actors that are really trying to put it forward, but definitely a lot of initiatives that we've seen that are more towards the sellers or the buyer side. Buyer side, and we're really, as project developers, sort of not getting exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely Thallo is trying to put that forward, and that of course we are not only project developers, we're carbon market developers, and trying to democratize the carbon market. That's huge. That's where we really try to get us as Biofix, you as Thallo. So I think that that's sort of the path that we're sharing, and that we're both trying to get to the same goal. So I think that that's really, really, really good. The carbon market, it's so new at the moment, even if it's sort of started with the Kyoto Protocol. I think that it hasn't been fully developed. And blockchain, we started hearing about it maybe 2 years ago-ish, maybe a year ago. So it's quite new, and it really seems like blockchain can help fill the gaps, some of the gaps that the carbon market has, and that no one has been able to fill them out at the moment. So I think that it really offers an opportunity for how we're going to keep developing the carbon market. I know that, of course, Article 6 is something that we really talk about, but we haven't been able to get there. So if we keep pushing that, then the carbon market will never reach the potential that it has. So I think that that's something really...
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think one of the key things that blockchain can help support is scale.
Yeah.
It's new areas of liquidity, it's all this digital MRV, the transparency piece as well, and obviously the connection between yourselves and your buyers and so on and so forth.
It's because it's about information. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because you're bringing clarity to the market. Because so many times we sold a credit and there happens to be like, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 people between us and the end buyer. And it's not because the end buyer doesn't have the opportunity to connect with us, because we are totally open about that. Because there is not enough information. Well, there is information in the market, but it's not that quite massive. And as Andrea was saying, like a year or 2 years ago, we started hearing about blockchain, and now it's worldwide. Like you hear, like people in the streets know what's blockchain, or at least have heard of it in the streets. Yeah. And we have been working the carbon markets for a long time, and you talk with people in the streets and you say, hey, a carbon credit, and they will say like, what is that? But you talk about blockchain and NFTs and all tokens, crypto, and people say, oh yeah, that's something my nephew plays on or something. They know something about it. So we know blockchain can make a really massive impact in the carbon market. Also because that's what transparency and democratization is about. Like, is to the end buyer and to the project developer and also all the people in the industry get the information they need in order to make what they want in the safe way. Because there is a lot of misknowledge and also a lack of information or lack of clarity about the markets. So we know blockchain has a really good opportunity to be bringing clarity and bringing knowledge to the market, to the people outside the market. Yeah, because we know each other. We went to this convention, and you know there are project developers, there are big corporate buyers, but the general people don't know about that stuff. So that's really nice that blockchain have the power to do that. Increased
participation from the ground up almost.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just gonna answer that, and then I'm gonna put my input in.
It's a big question, of course, but just hypothetically.
Not trying to be negative or against blockchain, but at least from my opinion, I'll say that there's still need for that sort of human side of it, and I do think that we can work more efficiently through blockchain, but it would still need that human side. Of course, I think that blockchain does have a future, and I think that we as humans, we need to sort of get the potential from blockchain, but I think that it's more of a balance between blockchain and sort of the human side of it. So I wouldn't say that I'm against being all 100% on-chain, but at least a high percentage should still be traditional sort of way of doing it.
Absolutely. You can't really replace that human touch, especially when you really focus on communities.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's something that I was thinking we were going to disagree on this, like, but now we are on the same page here. And also because we know that blockchain really helps and technology really helps. But I mean, I have heard a lot of people say, hey, we don't want to make visits to the field because we want to install a chip on the trees, and the chip will tell us like the tree is this, you have got to that, and it's nice to have that technology. I mean, I'm on board on that on a small scale, but let's be honest. Okay, you're going to do that on millions and millions of trees just from one project of ours. You know how much that produces? Yeah, you have to be completely honest with that. Like, technology can solve a lot of stuff, but you're making, I'm making this big conservation project, and you're gonna sell a chip or something, or
which has to be manufactured somewhere.
And you have to put it on a tree, and that's something that, first of all, we work with the community. And second of all, like, there are millions of trees. Like, I know you can make it from hectares or something like that, and you can make the drone go by and film the station, and that's good. That's something we do because it's efficient, it's good for the environment, and it's actually really good for us. But also, you forget about the people that are there. So it's not all about technology. It's about making the most of the technology with the benefit of the people. Because it's really nice. Like, I'm gonna tell us a story. It's not the same. I'm going to say that. Like cashiers in the supermarket. You remember them like a couple of years ago. You go and there was always a cashier. And then they invented a machine that is really good. That's something that's really good. And now you don't see cashiers in the supermarket. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying like you have to work in a way that people will also get benefit from that. I'm not saying that all those people just went broke and are unemployment. There was a period of unemployment, but also what I'd like to say is like blockchain have a really good potential in order to reduce cost, but there is a point when technology cannot do all, and that's when we talk with companies and people. They sorry for this friend. They talk trash about the company because they say, no, you have to compensate all this. You have to get to net zero. It's impossible to get to net zero without natural-based solutions. It's impossible. Like there is a point like if you want to continue working, you have to be making this kind of removals, making this kind of conservation projects. So that's what we're trying to make. Like blockchain can unlock that potential, but there is also a part where technology is not at all. It's nice to install chips on trees. I have seen that. I have also seen NFTs for taking care of a vector. That's something that's really nice. We have seen a lot of stuff, and I would say that's really nice. But also, you have to be real about what you're doing.
I think I completely agree with you. Actually, there is an element where technology can make things more efficient, make things more transparent. But when you're actually building projects that directly affect people's lives, it's very difficult to run a code that manages that. So I think we're completely aligned there.
I think that I would like to add, now that we've been talking about blockchain, we have this type of events that are coming up. We're probably going to get more every year. We're going to keep discussing it. I think that it's really important that, because it's from our side, but because we work with communities, I think that we really need to make it easier for people to understand. I think that we are still trying to understand. David is an economist. I have studies, and I'm still trying to understand. And I'm actually, even yesterday, I was wondering, how are we going to explain this to the communities? There's still, we still get questions of, why are we selling carbon credits and not oxygen credits? We're still getting those questions that for us they seem really obvious, but for them it's really not. So I think that it's really important that from the start, right now, let's try to make it as simple as possible so that we can even take one of these events. We can take a person from an indigenous reserve, take them to this event, and they will understand everything.
Yeah.
I think that because we are the intermediaries between the projects and the people, that's where we want to get.
Yeah.
That's our main public, even the communities, before even the companies that are getting the credits. We need to reach the communities before we reach anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that it's the time now to really get that sort of wording right so that everyone can understand it.
Yeah, that's something that's really powerful about what you say. In the last climate summit here in Colombia, we panel one of our projects in there, and they know about carbon market and they know how they work. They have a really strong organization. But it's really important what Andrea was saying is because explaining to the community how a carbon credit works is difficult. Also explaining that to regular people is difficult. Now, try to explain carbon markets that we do and the community understand. Now put it blockchain and now link it together. That's going to be quite difficult. So as you guys, the blockchain is bringing clarity and knowledge to the markets, is blockchain that also wants to we also need blockchain to give that knowledge back to the communities.
No, I think that's a really, really important point. We touched on it yesterday, and I've been to a few similar events where there wasn't very many carbon market actors there. There were just quite a lot of Web3 people discussing how to solve problems. But carbon market actors is one thing, but as you've absolutely rightly pointed out, the community members, I've never been to an event where we've had a community member, or I've seen a local community member, from an indigenous community, they're getting educated as well. And I think that's a really important piece that you've highlighted there. So we need to find ways to bridge that gap.
The communities, they are connected. They have internet, they have their phones. So there are ways to get, we don't have to bring them to Bogota or to Rio or to the events every single time. They can get educated in their own ways. So I think that that's definitely an opportunity.
Yeah, and that's also an opportunity for them because we're talking about bringing businesses from the community. So we were working a couple of months ago with blockchain and with making an NFT out of the forest. Yeah, actually out of the forest, but for the people. We will be working alongside with them. But it's also nice to see hey, I just took a picture of this bird, and you say hey, I took it. I know I can make money out of it, and because of that, I want to be able to continue doing my work and do this preservation and this conservation of my land. So that's something we are really open to, and because we know this is good for the community, we are good to go on that because we are in the business of people.
Yeah.
Those people are the ones that are taking care of the forest. I would have to remember that.
Guys, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.